I'd like to return to the present tense because we're missing we and they, how to say those two angles in the present tense. Now, if you feel that you need to refresh your memory on the present tense, please go back and repeat the final drill that we did from the earlier module before going on to this one. But if you feel that you still have it fresh in your memory and you still remember what we covered, then you can go on with this video without repeating it. So I want to cover first they in the present tense, and we'll start with the verb to sing, which is cantar. So how would you say I sing? Canto. And he, she, or it sings? Canta. You sing? Cantas. So if we go back to he, she, and it, we had canta, he sings, she sings, it sings. And instead of just adding an S to get you, for example, cantas, instead now for they, we add an N. So adding an N to the end. So we have canta for he, she, and it, and now we add an N, which will become cantan. And that's how we would say they sing. So to summarize, to get they in the present tense, we just take whatever it is for he, she, and it and add an N. And this is very closely related to you because it's the same principle, but we add an S to get you and we add an N to get they. Let's take another example verb, say comer, to eat. So how would you say he, she, or it eats? Come. Now to get they eat, it's exactly the same principle. We take come for he, she, and it, and we add an N onto the end. Now we get comen. Comen means they eat. As a bonus, this tense for they also means you all. So you all eat, comen, or they all eat, comen. Same for the previous example. I'll go back to where it was here, say for cantan. So cantan means they sing, but can also mean you all sing. So you can use that to cover both they or you all. Let's work with another example verb. So we have hablar, to speak. So how would you say he, she, or it speaks? Habla. Now try to say they speak. Hablan. So again, we just took habla for he, she, and it, added an N, and we get hablan for they. So as you can see, it's quite easy. We are always using he, she, and it as a diving board. For example, to get you, we would grab whatever it was for he, she, and it, and we'd add an S. So habla, hablas for you speak. Or come and comes. See, it's the same principle, just adding the S onto he, she, and it. But if we're talking for they, now instead of adding an S, we add an N. So we have come for he eats, she eats, or it eats. We add the N and we get comen. And now comen is for they eat. Now that you understand the mechanics of it, let's try to do some real-world practice. And this is all about sort of getting the hang of it. So hopefully this video is going to help you do that. Let's begin with the verb pagar. So how would you say he, she, or it pays? Paga. And they pay? Pagan. Remember that it's the same point in the word that you stress. So we had paga for he, she, and it, and pagan for they. You see the stress in the word doesn't shift. It stays where it is and you just add an N to the end. Let's take comprar, to buy. How would you say he, she, or it buys? Compra. They buy? Compran. To suffer is sufrir. How would you say he, she, or it suffers? Sufre. Because the verb is an IR verb, right? So this goes to an E, an E for he, she, and it. So we have sufre. Now try and say they suffer. Sufren. Again, we just added the N. We had sufre plus N. Sufren, they suffer. The verb to kiss is besar. How would you say he, she, or it kisses? Besa. They kiss. Besan. To call is llamar. So how would you say he, she, it calls? Llama. They call. Llaman. The verb to smoke is fumar. How would you say he, she, or it smokes? Fuma. They smoke. Fuman. Vender is to sell. So say he, she, or it sells. Vende. They sell. Venden. To go out is salir. Say he, she, or it goes out. Sale. They go out. Salen. To break is romper. How would you say he, she, or it breaks? Rompe. They break. Rompen. Tapar is the verb to cover. Say he, she, or it covers. Tapa. They cover. Tapan. To touch is tocar. So how would you say he, she, or it touches? Toca. They touch. Tocan. To receive is recibir. Try to say he, she, or it receives. Recibe. They receive. Reciben. Finally, to use. Usar. They use. Usan. The last angle that we need to cover is for we, and we get a very distinctive sound. The key sound is mos. Mos. That's going to become very evident as we go through this video. What happens is we take the full verb, whatever it may be, we cross off the final R, and we replace it with mos. Let's do some examples. What's the verb to speak? Hablar. So we take hablar and we would cross off the final R, replacing it with mos, and then we get hablamos. Hablamos is we speak or we talk, because hablar is to speak or to talk. So we have hablar, you get rid of this final R and add in mos. So we have hablamos. Notice that the push down is happening again on that penultimate syllable, syllable before last, hablamos. A nice way of remembering is that the stress comes just before the mos sound. So you have hablamos just before the mos. Let's try with another verb. What's the verb to eat? Comer. So now we take comer and we get rid of that R and add mos. So we get comemos. Again, you see the stress before last, just before this mos, comemos. Comemos is we eat. What's the verb to go out? Salir. So to say we go out we would take salir, cross off that R and add mos. We would get salimos. Again, the push salimos just before mos. Notice that we have an IR verb here, salir, and so it went to salimos. We didn't have to change anything, just get rid of the R and put in mos. Also in comer, we had an ER verb, so we just got rid of the R and we kept this E, comemos. Then for hablar, we have an AR verb. Again, we just got rid of the R, we keep the A, hablamos. So it makes it nice and uniform. If we have an AR verb, hablamos, or if we have an ER verb, comemos, or if we have an IR verb, salimos, it stays nice and uniform. Let's do some practice now so you can try it for yourself. If you don't get the hang of it right away, don't worry, just keep repeating it and you will find that you get the hang of it pretty easily. So we're going to try to jump straight from the full version of the verb into we. So what's the verb to sing? Cantar. We sing. Cantamos. We sing here every day. Cantamos aquí cada día. To use. Usar. We use. Usamos. To take. Tomar. We take. Tomamos. We take it. Lo tomamos. To smoke. Fumar. We smoke. Fumamos. We don't smoke here. No fumamos aquí. To sell. Vender. We sell. Vendemos. We don't sell it now. No lo vendemos ahora. To kiss. Besar. We kiss. Besamos. To suffer. Sufrir. We suffer. Sufrimos. To buy. Comprar. We buy. Compramos. We buy it every day. Lo compramos cada día. To pay. Pagar. We pay. Pagamos. We pay it today. Lo pagamos hoy. So, to summarize, to get we take the full verb and we erase that final R, replacing it with mos. So we'd have pagar, we get rid of the R. Let's do it up here. And then we replace it with mos, and we get pagamos. Remember that this stress happening right before the mos. That's very important so that you can pronounce the word correctly with the right stress point. Because once we start adding in mos, the words start getting a bit longer. So it's easy to make a mistake there. So we stress the syllable right before mos. It's really just a matter of getting the sound in your head. It's a feel thing. So whether we're expressing we or they, I, he, she, and it, you, you get the feeling for the sound from the verb. For example, if we run through quickly, you'll hear that we have a very distinctive, very common sound for we. We have pagamos, hablamos, comemos, tocamos, besamos, salimos, compramos, sufrimos. You hear that repeating pattern for we. It's a sound that you get into your head and then you learn how to quickly get it with whatever verb you're trying to use. And that goes for they, for I, he, she, and it, for you, for all the different angles. So now that we have all 5 angles with the present tense, meaning I, you, he, she, it, we, and they, what I'd like to do is run a long drill. Now this drill is not really meant to test you, it's more designed to help you. So I'd like you to take your time and always pause to think out your answers. First, let's run through the verbs, and I've chosen 28 of them from the course so far. What is the verb to do or to make? Hacer, to know. Saber, to eat. Comer, to have dinner. Cenar, to dance. Bailar, to go out. Salir, to speak or to talk. Hablar, to buy. Comprar, to call. Llamar, to help. Ayudar, to go up, to climb. Subir, to take. Tomar, to prepare. Preparar, to arrive. Llegar, to receive. Recibir, to depend. Depender, to kiss. Besar, to sing. Cantar, to doubt. Dudar, to smoke. Fumar, to pay. Pagar, to cover. Tapar, to touch. Tocar, to use. Usar, to sell. Vender, to break. Romper, to suffer. Sufrir, to admire. Admirar. Next up, what we're going to do is take those 28 verbs and drill them throughout all the different angles. So in effect, what we get is 138 questions coming up next. For example, we could say, take the verb admirar, and what I'd like you to do is work out how you would say they admire. Remember that with all of the verbs, we are manipulating or playing around with this ending, either AR, ER, or IR. So how would you say they admire? Admiran. I arrive. Llego. I touch. Toco. He, she, it sells. Vende. They touch. Tocan. You call. Llamas. They sing. Cantan. They depend. Dependen. They use. Usan. You sing. Cantas. We take. Tomamos. He, she, it smokes. Fuma. They cover. Tapan. You dance. Bailas. I pay. Pago. You depend. Dependes. You smoke. Fumas. You receive. Recibes. We receive. Recibimos. I go up. I climb. Subo. We smoke. Fumamos. He, she, or it calls. Llama. I sing. Canto. I depend. Dependo. We cover. Tapamos. He, she, or it sings. Canta. I sell. Vendo. He, she, or it buys. Compra. I use. Uso. They eat. Comen. I smoke. Fumo. We pay. Pagamos. You suffer. Sufres. They take. Toman. We dance. Bailamos. I cover. Tapo. I prepare. Preparo. You help. Ayudas. He, she, or it goes up or climbs. Sube. He, she, or it suffers. Sufre. We call. Llamamos. They suffer. Sufren. He, she, or it arrives. Llega. I doubt. Dudo. We eat. Comemos. They smoke. Fuman. I take. Tomo. I help. Ayudo. I dance. Bailo. We buy. Compramos. You arrive. Llegas. We prepare. Preparamos. You pay. Pagas. We touch. Tocamos. You cover. Tapas. We go up, we climb. Subimos. You go out. Sales. They buy. Compran. He, she, it breaks. Rompe. They do or they make. Hacen. We doubt. Dudamos. He, she, it goes out. Sale. They kiss. Besan. He, she, it uses. Usa. They dance. Bailan. He, she, or it has dinner. Cena. He, she, or it helps. Ayuda. We speak, we talk. Hablamos. We kiss. Besamos. They doubt. Dudan. I eat. Como. We know. Sabemos. They arrive. Llegan. We go out. Salimos. I suffer. Sufro. We break. Rompemos. He, she, or it does or makes. Hace. You eat. Comes. He, she, or it dances. Baila. You speak, you talk. Hablas. He, she, or it doubts. Duda. You use. Usas. He, she, or it takes. Toma. You admire. Admiras. You doubt. Dudas. They break. Rompen. He, she, or it knows. Sabe. We use. Usamos. He, she, or it pays. Paga. You sell. Vendes. They go up, they climb. Suben. He, she, or it speaks or talks. Habla. He, she, or it receives. Recibe. I receive. Recibo. We admire. Admiramos. They pay. Pagan. I call. Llamo. He, she, or it prepares. Prepara. They sell. Venden. We have dinner. Cenamos. We depend. Dependemos. You know. Sabes. I speak, I talk. Hablo. We help. Ayudamos. They go out. Salen. You have dinner. Cenas. He, she, or it touches. Toca. They help. Ayudan. We arrive. Llegamos. I break. Rompo. We sing. Cantamos. They have dinner. Cenan. They receive. Reciben. You kiss. Besas. I buy. Compro. We suffer. Sufrimos. I admire. Admiro. You buy. Compras. We sell. Vendemos. They prepare. Preparan. He, she, it kisses. Besa. I kiss. Beso. They call. Llaman. He, she, it covers. Tapa. I have dinner. Seno. They know. Saben. You take. Tomas. You go up, you climb. Subes. We do, we make. Hacemos. He, she, it admires. Admira. You prepare. Preparas. They speak, they talk. Hablan. He, she, it eats. Come. It depends. Depende. You touch. Tocas. You break. Rompes. You do. Haces. Let's finish now by taking a bird's eye view over the present tense, because we've been through all the different angles now. Let's start with a verb ending in AR, like hablar, to speak or to talk. So if we put the whole thing on one slide, it would be hablo, I speak. Hablas, for you speak. Habla, he, she, or it speaks. Hablamos, for we speak. And hablan, for they speak. Let's take, say, an ER verb. So something like comer, to eat. Now we have como, for I eat. Comes, for you eat. Come, he, she, or it eats. Comemos, for we eat. And comen, for they eat. Then we have our third class of verb ending in IR. So we could take sufrir, to suffer. We have sufro, I suffer. Sufres, you suffer. Sufre, he, she, or it suffers. Sufrimos, we suffer. And sufren, they suffer. Now, what I'd like you to notice there is that there's a very regular pattern. So all these verbs are classified as regular verbs because they obey the rules. They follow the sequence, they fall into line, they behave in the same way. So most verbs in Spanish are classified as regular verbs. We do get irregular verbs, some very important ones actually, but we're going to be treating them separately and giving them their own special videos because they're so important that we learn them and that we know how to work with them quickly. But most verbs in Spanish are regular verbs. They fall into this same pattern. If we go back to hablar, you can see we have the o representing I, and again here in como we have o representing I, and sufro, o representing I in the verb. Then we have ending in s here, right, for you, hablas, here comes, and sufres, so s representing you. For he, she, and it, we can go two ways. Remember that it can end in a if it's an AR verb, or it ends in e, such as come here or sufre here, because they're ER and IR verbs. They go to e for he, she, and it, not a. Then coming along to they, we're just adding the mos. So we have hablar, hablarmos, comer, comemos, and sufrir, sufrimos. So all we do is chop off the R and add mos. And then finally for they, you can see that again we take he, she, and it, but instead of adding an S for you, we add an N. And that's how we get they, hablan. Here we have comen, for they eat, and sufren, for they suffer. Now, what you've just seen there is a classic example of conjugating verbs. How we take an infinitive, the full verb, to talk or to whatever, and then you manipulate that verb to express all the different angles. I, he, she, and it, you, we, and they. So this is conjugating verbs. But I want to also tell you that you'll conjugate verbs less than you imagine, because I tend to minimize the need to conjugate. It slows you down, it gives you a lot of extra stuff to think about, it complicates the language in many ways. So the way I teach Spanish is a way that minimizes the need for you to actually dig into a verb and conjugate it. At certain times you can't avoid it, but you can certainly minimize the amount that you have to do it. And when you do that, you'll find that your Spanish instantly becomes quicker and more fluent, that you have less frustration when it comes to expressing what you want to say, and you feel less stress when you're communicating with the language. It's more enjoyable because it's flowing easier.